Hi, Gigi. These comments are from Michael, and thank you for completing your writing for an online academic discussion. So let's take a look at the actual rubric. So you submitted the writing assignment a couple of days ago, and I have a speaking and writing feedback service at Better TOEFL Scores. So I read the paragraph you wrote. Unfortunately, I think that you're probably in the 3 area here, maybe 3 out of 5, looking at maybe 18 points out of 30. And I'm thinking at least some variety in syntactic structures and range of vocabulary, but you could be better than that. You're a little bit limited in that sense. Some noticeable lexical and grammatical errors in sentence structure, word form, or use of idiomatic language. I also see some issues there. So there's at least 2 areas here that describe what you wrote. So let's take a look at your actual essay now. So you responded to the professor's prompt, and then 2 students commented on the discussion, and then you're adding to that information. So this is what you wrote here. Now, this is the actual model that I think would score right around 30 out of 30 points. So you can take a minute and read that if you want. Okay, I'm going to move on. So let's take a look at why I gave you the score that I did. So your response is mostly relevant and the main opinion is clear. So you support clearly student B's position. No free college, but more affordability. You provide some elaboration and an example. You talk about the school funded by rich people in Tulsa. That was good. You show some variety in sentence structure, but also frequent awkwardness, run-ons, and word form issues. You want to make sure that you have control of your sentence boundaries. Word forms means that you're having good control of your nouns, adjectives, adverbs, and verbs. You had the correct ending on those words and in the right position. So you're having some problems with that. Vocabulary is appropriate at times, but word choice is often imprecise or non-idiomatic. It's just not natural. Grammar errors and sentence boundary problems sometimes interfere with smooth readability. Cohesion is uneven. Transitions are attempted but not always effective. So you know how to connect ideas together, but you're just not doing it on a high level. So line by line analysis. So here's the very first sentence here. So you have a good main idea, but notice how you go from you use I agreed with. I would say I agree with that it's not, and then I think this is not the reality. It's a little bit awkward. You can change it to this is not realistic given our current economy. So the comma after affordable, you can certainly do that, but the clause afterward is wordy and repetitive. So that's my comment on your first sentence. So you can see my other comments after each sentence, right? So sentence 2, these are my comments here. So it says a sentence fragment after the word pay. The problem is you put that period there. You don't want to do that, right? That's going to have to be a comma. So be careful about that. So you can see there you have sentence 3. These are my comments here. Sentence 4, you can read those comments. And I'm concerned about this because you've had some problems with passive voice even in your speaking, right? And it's showing here that you're having definite problems here. Notice how, for example, where I lived opened up a school. You're thinking more in Portuguese there, but notice in my city a school was opened. It's going to work better there. So notice how passive voice we list the subject as the receiver or recipient of the action, then we have the be verb, then we have the past participle. Sentence 5, you can read the comments there. Sentence 6, I went through some analysis there. Sentence 7, sentence 8, sentence 9. That was a very long sentence. I kind of call this over-subordination, so you have to be careful about really long sentences. Notice how you have when, which is a subordinated conjunction. Then you have but, which is a coordinated conjunction. And then you have if in there. So be careful about combining maybe too many sentences together. So based on my analysis of those sentences, I think your writing, there's basically 4 key areas that you need to focus on right now to improve. Number 1, sentence boundaries, frequent run-ons and fragments. You need to know when a sentence ends and when the new sentence begins. You're having some problems with that. Number 2, word choice. This is a tough one. Sentence boundaries, you can pretty well study and master that fairly quickly. But non-idiomatic things are a little bit more difficult. It means that the Portuguese, your first language, is influencing how you speak English, and you're not writing on a very natural level. You're having some problems with that. For example, you say things like think ways or feel the cost of living higher. A native speaker wouldn't say it like that. Grammar issues, subject-verb agreement, parallelism, article use, and prepositions. Those are key areas that you can improve on. Number 4 is cohesion. Transitions exist, but they feel a little bit mechanical or abrupt. So suggestions for improvement: grammar and sentence structure. Practice complex and compound sentence formation without fragments. So we can't fix one issue, and on the other hand, you can change to we can't fix one issue while creating another by burdening taxpayers. That's going to be a little smoother. Review subject-verb agreement and article usage. This is a tough one. A college, the government. So reading newspapers, I think, is good. Watching TV, listening to newscasts, podcasts, things of that nature. So you want to get more input into your brain. You're already doing this a lot, but you're concentrating right now on getting that 25 on the writing section of the TOEFL, right? So you have to really bombard your brain right now with a lot of input, and that's going to help you with your output, which is your speaking and your writing. Number 2, word choice and idiomatic phrasing. Replace literal translations or awkward phrases with more natural expressions. Instead of saying think ways, you might say find ways. Feel the cost of living higher, face a higher living cost, or face a higher cost of living, you could say. And ChatGPT can actually help you with this. So if you practice writing some of your responses, either speaking or writing, then have Chat look it over. Say, I want you to look over my writing specifically. And when you're practicing this, let me go back to, when you look it over, say, Chat, I want you to look over my writing for an academic discussion and make sure that it meets the following criteria: relevant, well-elaborated explanations, exemplifications, and or details, effective use of variety of syntactic structures, and precise idiomatic word choice. You're going to paste these bullets into Chat, and Chat's going to read over the paragraph and give you feedback in each of these key areas. Almost no lexical or grammatical errors other than those expected from a competent writer writing under time conditions. So you can get feedback from Chat, and then you want to remember that feedback. And when you're practicing subsequent responses, you want to try to eliminate any problems that Chat's been telling you about. You want to try to clean up your writing through revision, through editing, and through getting feedback. Let's talk about cohesion and coherence. So use clear connectors. Moreover, in contrast, consequently, instead of repeating in addition and however in a mechanical way. So you want to make sure you have a range of transition words you're using in there and that they sound natural. Keep pronoun reference clear. Avoid vague words like it or this without clear antecedents. They need to refer back to something you've already mentioned. Okay, academic tone. Avoid overly casual words. Rich people that you mentioned in the paragraph, you could change that to wealthy donors or philanthropists. And remember in our private lesson today, I was exactly going over this with you, right? We're talking about word choice and how you want to use more precise idiomatic wording to help you express your ideas, and that's going to help you score higher. Okay, another suggestion, use precise academic vocabulary. So financial accessibility, you could say equitable access if you want. Practice strategies. These are some things that you can think about doing that can help you to improve your writing proficiency. So rewrite your own response after getting feedback, kind of like I'm giving you here. Focusing on fixing the grammar issues without changing ideas. Read high-scoring TOEFL sample responses to see how ideas are connected and how precise vocabulary is used. Time writing drills. Write a short paragraph in 5 to 6 minutes, then spend 3 to 4 minutes editing for grammar and word choice. This kind of helps you work under imposed time constraint. Now you might say, well, Michael, I can't do it in 10 minutes. Then take 20. Take a little bit longer, but get it right. And then once you feel you can control your writing in 20 minutes, then start reducing it until you get back to that 10-minute time constraint. You understand what I'm saying there? So again, this is what you wrote here. This is your original at 18 out of 30 points. And then this is the actual model, 30 out of 30 points. Now let's read it together here. Sometimes it's good to read and hear the language. I believe college should not be free, but it should be more affordable. I agree with student B that making tuition free is unrealistic in our current economy. Solving the problem of financial access for some students should not mean placing an additional burden on taxpayers. In addition, educational institutions should find ways to expand access to higher education. For example, in my city, a new school, though not a college, was funded by wealthy donors in Tulsa. The children who attend receive an advanced education in a well-structured facility without having to pay. However, colleges are much more complex in structure and depth of study, which requires significant financial investment in facilities, faculty, and resources. If we rely solely on government funding to make college free, the system could suffer from budget shortfalls, compromising the quality of instruction. Taxpayers would also face a higher cost of living. Therefore, when we consider the idea of free college, we should not only think about providing students with greater access to education, but whether the system can continue to offer high quality programs and the support they need to succeed. So that's kind of what you're aiming at. Now this is a little over the top, I'll admit. It's too good, right? You don't have to be exactly this good, but you have to get better controlling the language use in the paragraph that you wrote there, right? So make sure that you go over my feedback, my line by line analysis, and then make sure you go through the suggestions on how you can improve and strengthen your writing proficiency. Because until you solve these problems, maybe sentence structure, maybe punctuation, maybe word choice, maybe grammar, until you solve these issues, you're not going to be able to advance your writing proficiency and ultimately increase your TOEFL writing score. All right, Gigi, and thank you very much for submitting this practice test. I hope that my comments kind of will get you going in the right direction. Remember, never give up. Keep practicing. Follow my feedback. Rewrite, redo, resubmit, and you will get better.